don't think that this is just the most anticipated animated movie of the year. I think this is one of the overall most anticipated films. My top level review for this is it is a fun flick for families and Nintendo junkies alike. Super Mario Bros. Movie is based on the original Nintendo game, Super Mario Brothers, and it tells the origin story of how the Brooklyn brothers, Mario and Luigi, end up in the Mushroom Kingdom and how they go against Bowser and how they join up with Princess Peach and Toad and make a whole journey out of it. The water main in Brooklyn is busted. They go below street level and fall into a utilities room that seems to have been abandoned for quite some time, and they find a mysterious tube that they walk in, they get sucked into, and through this magical portal they end up being separated. Luigi ends up in the Dark Kingdom while Mario ends up in the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario says, hey, I gotta find my brother, and he meets Toad, and Toad says, oh, you should talk to the princess. So they go meet the princess, and the princess says, oh, we're about to be destroyed by Bowser, and I need to go find another army, so let's do a journey together. The thing I appreciated most about this film is that it didn't offend my nostalgia. In today's world, that apparently has to be said. There's been so many movies that they've gone into the original source material and they want to reimagine it for modern audiences. And they end up turning it into something that was not even close to what I grew up loving. Or even worse, they use this as an opportunity to lecture me with the subtlety of a frying pan getting smacked over my head.
Frying pans! Who knew, right?
Sets on Corona.
Frying pans! Who knew?
I don't appreciate it. But this wasn't that. Rest assured, you can go into this movie and realize that no, they really did try to keep everything together. They tried to keep the characters kind of the same. If I had kids, I would take them to this and it would just be a fun, lighthearted time at the movies. A little long, but overall, a positive experience. I probably should tell you about my history with Nintendo, just to kind of share. I was a casual player of Nintendo growing up. My brothers, though, they were all about it, always played, but only having 2 remotes, I wasn't always the first one they picked, because I'll be honest, I'm not very good. So I know the characters, I know the plot, I know all of these things, but it wasn't something that I spent, for example, an entire day trying to pass Super Mario World. I just watched somebody else do it. The creators of this film really expected basically everybody going into it to be at least at my level. They expect you to know about the characters, they expect you to know about the worlds, they expect you to basically be overjoyed with all of the Easter eggs that they throw into this. And believe me, there are a lot of Easter eggs. Coming out Easter weekend, how poetic. At the end of the screening, I went out to share my opinion, and I heard one critic say that he thought it was very contained. And I think I know what he was trying to say. For me, it kind of felt like the writer of this had a list of all of the worlds, all of the characters, and all of the major memories and aspects of the games that he wanted to make sure to include, and basically piecemealed it all together. Kind of like one of those junior prom invites where they take all the candy bars and make a message out of it and put it on a poster board. Like, I would feel like $100,000 and there would never be any Snickers as we walked in together for the junior prom. I mean, all the words make sense, but that's just not how we talk, you know? It kind of felt like that as it was kind of going through it. It didn't, not necessarily forced, but just kind of, there wasn't a lot of natural flow to the story. I would say it was 100% true to the lore of the games, which is good, but also the safe thing. I'm sure that they had the heads of Nintendo looking down on them like, mess this up and I will crush you. But going back to the junior prom invitation, it just kind of lacked cohesion and made it feel like a checkbox storyline. I think that they were kind of going off of what the Lego movie did, which totally worked for them because it's Legos. It's like what they do. They throw all the Legos in a box, and so whatever storyline comes out is what comes out. And it kind of tied everything together with the live action at the ending, which they didn't have with this. Nintendo had already been down the live action route, and they're like, no, we're not doing that. I'd say that all of the characters completed a story arc in a satisfying way, but if you have played the games, then it was also pretty predictable. But at the same time, the animation was done in such a way that There were times where I felt genuine suspense. So, yay. I got totally caught up in the score as well. I feel like the composer just had so much fun taking some of these core memory melodies and just kind of making them more thematic and theatrical. He did a great job. So highly impressed with that. And it was just a fun feeling every time. Once again, nostalgia every couple minutes. I felt like Chris Pratt did a good job with his voice acting. It didn't sound overtly like Chris Pratt. He tried to have some type of a character voice. And so you didn't really think, oh, that's Chris Pratt when he's talking, which is so important, especially for such an iconic character. You don't want to be looking at this character thinking, that's Chris Pratt. It was a similar feeling when I got to Bowser, and I didn't quite know who it was at first. But then when I saw in the credits that it was Jack Black, so I was like, oh yeah, of course it was Jack Black. With Bowser, I felt like they did a good job at setting up the boss level expectations of him at the very beginning. He just comes in and he just destroys stuff. But I felt like toward the middle, they kind of turned and played more toward the kiddos and more of a jokey kind of Bowser. And I don't know if I liked that or not, or I mean, it definitely left you with the impression that this guy's crazy. Then there was Seth Rogen playing Donkey Kong, and I'm just going to say I've never really been a huge Seth Rogen fan, but now I'm over it. Like, he is the epitome of your Seth Rogen playing Donkey Kong who is also trying to be Seth Rogen. And it's just, I don't like it. I don't. Princess Peach. Now, there were rumors that went around that originally the screenwriter was trying to make her a little bit more of the boss woman or the boss girl, and to the point where it was almost her taking over the script and making it her being the main character of the Super Mario Brothers movie, which Nintendo was not a fan of that. And I appreciated to so much degree that they they actually stepped in and said, no, we're not going to do this. And we're going to leave Peach as she is, the more feminine, the more of a, the thing is, like, she is a bit of a boss girl in the fact that she basically has no flaws and no weaknesses. She comes out being like, Peachy. When you're creating a story, you don't ever want any character to be only one-sided and only have strengths. And I felt like she only had strengths to the extent that they're almost afraid to give women weaknesses at all. But it's like there's a give and take to every relationship. And if one person has all of the strengths and they're like not the mentor person, then it's like, why am I here? If I had this other person that's like perfect, like, well, why don't you just do it? And so they did a good job of making it so that Peach didn't take over the film, but I still feel like they could have done better with more of giving her a need for Mario. So in the story of the games, you were always trying to rescue the princess, but apparently... And this is just me being speculative. In the negotiation, she's not going to be the boss girl, but she's also not going to be saved. We can't have her actually be in Bowser's captivity and needs to be saved. And so instead, they put all of the weaknesses on Luigi. And it's just like, you look at him like, oh, poor guy. Like, he's incompetent in all the things. And you're not giving him, until the very end, you give him like, good job, you stood up for something, but it's like you didn't build it very well. Like, everyone needs to have strengths and weaknesses. Everyone needs to be needed. They had Luigi be the one that needed to be saved, while Peach is like, fine, I'll come along with you, which is not how the story goes. So I can't, going back to the beginning, saying that, they were 100%. No, they weren't. They weren't 100%. And I feel like the story suffered slightly because of that. But in all, I felt like all the character voices did a good job. You're walking through this movie, and by walking, you're watching everybody else walk. You're watching this movie, and you see like all these different things, like level up, level 1, level 2. You see just so many Easter eggs. So for somebody who is just a diehard Nintendo junkie fan, like, this is going to be wonderful and just like, yay, so exciting. And even for somebody who is just a casual fan and a fan as a child and like, yeah, I have nostalgia for this. I enjoyed it. I feel like I had like 3.5 to 4 stars. I'll give it 4 stars. Yeah, let's just go with that. Like, probably definitely a B+, I would say. There is a mid-credit scene that is humorous, and also a post-credit scene that also, I would say, opens up to a next level. And seeing as Chris Pratt let out the news that Nintendo was probably going to be doing a Nintendo cinematic universe a la the MCU Marvel Cinematic Universe, I felt like this was a good start. You know, especially if they're planning on doing like Zelda and going in, maybe doing a Battletoads. I always liked that game and nobody ever knows about it. And then trying to create like an Avengers style matchup, Super Mario like party type thing. I think that it would do well for sure, the Zelda one, but I don't know if I need it. I'll give it a try though. I'm very open to it. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you haven't, I want to know what you are looking forward to. You can also let me know which Nintendo game was your fave. Until next time, my name is Chelsea Robson, and you are watching the Rotoscopers YouTube. Battletoads Double Dragon, too. That was its own little thing. You know what? There's just so many things you can do with this, and they're definitely going to do it. And I'm excited about it because honestly, there's been such a dearth of good movies out lately, and I want it to go back. We had so many good movies throughout my childhood, and kids today just, I'm sorry that you have to deal with this, but hey, that's what streaming's for, apparently.